Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be going over the brand new champion raid system. Now, I'm just going to be going over the new champion raid portion of the champ system. In my last video, I went over the actual Legion champion system itself. So if you want to watch that video, I will leave it in the description. But yeah, so what is the champion raid? Champion raid is monthly content that your Legion champs can access. And everyone who has Legion champs will want to be doing this because it does give really strong buffs. And you only really have to do it once a month and it doesn't take that long. So I recommend doing it. So yeah, if you look in your Legion UI and you see these purple coins on the right side with this champion battleground button, this is related to the champion raid system. And these coins are for buffs that you can get from a skill in your beginner tab. And the skill is right here called Champion's Renown. And when you double click on this skill, you can see all the buffs that you can get. It's basically a custom buff. They can select any stats that you want and it will cost varying amounts of these coins. So yeah, let's talk about how to get these coins. So to get the coins, you're going to want to go into the Legion UI and then you're going to want to go ahead and click on this champion battleground button and it's going to send you to this Draco Isle map. And then you're going to click on Sir Hamsalot here, and then you can click on Participate in Champion Raid. Then you're going to see your champions laid out here. And keep in mind, you have to have at least 2 champions in order to start the champion raid. So once you have at least 2 or more champions, you can go ahead and hit challenge. And when you hit challenge, it'll remove all the buffs that you currently have on. And it's going to send you into a prep room where you'll be able to buff up and put toggles on and things like that. And when you're in the prep room too, you can see how the character swapping works. So when you push tab, it's going to allow you to be able to swap characters. You just push either 1, 2, or 3 to swap to that champ that you want to have out. And if you notice, there's a yellow bar with a sword next to it, and then there's a timer underneath that yellow bar. The yellow gauge is called Champion's Bond, and when you have this gauge at all filled up, even if it's 1 out of 1,000, it doesn't matter how high the gauge is, but as long as you have some gauge left, you'll have a 25% FD boost. And the timer underneath is the total time that you can have your character active in the raid. So you can have 3 minutes of active time per character. So if you have 3 characters, you'll have 9 total minutes of time in the raid. And then on the top right of each character, you'll see this hazard stack. And you do not want these hazard stacks. And the way you get these hazard stacks is starting at stage 3, there's going to be map hazards that you have to avoid. But if you do get hit by any of the hazards, the way you cleanse is you can go up to the fruits in the map and push NPC chat on the fruits to cleanse. So when you enter, there's going to be 6 total stages. Now, most people will get to around stage 3 or stage 4, I would say. It's very dependent on how strong your champs are and how strong your main is. But every stage will have 10 phases. It'll have 5 mobbing phases and 5 bossing phases. And the timer will actually pause when you're between a mob phase and a boss phase. And typically the strategy I would use would be use your 2 weaker characters to do the mobbing and then swap to your main character or your strongest champ to kill the bosses. And every time you finish a mobbing phase, it'll go to a bossing phase and then back to a mobbing phase, and it'll do that over and over for 10 total phases. And when you have a character out, the Champion's Bond, the yellow gauge, that gauge will drain as you have a character out, and the other characters that are inactive, the gauge will go up on those characters. And if you have 3 characters, 1 main character, and then your 2 sub-mains or Legion champs, I recommend using all of your skills off cooldown. So that way when you swap to another character, the skills will start ticking in the background while you're on another character. That way you'll get significantly more uptime on all your skills, and you can get a much higher score this way. And before your character despawns, make sure you also use all your longest cooldown skills like your origin for a higher score as well. And when you get to phase 3, you'll start seeing map hazards start to spawn in. If you use the portals around the map, it'll actually help you avoid the hazards easier. So I would definitely recommend doing that if you're having some trouble with the hazards. But if you do get hit by the hazards, you can use NPC chat on the fruits on the map if you do manage to get hit by a hazard, because you don't want to be at 5 hazard stacks because you'll get a really bad debuff. And after all 3 of your champs run out of time, the champion raid will be over. And since we have 3 champs right now, we get 9 total minutes. But when they add more champion slots in the future, it'll obviously increase the total time we are allowed inside the raid. So then we will end up getting a higher score. So if you have 3 champions done right now, I do recommend working on your 4th one just passively. Because if you have a 4th Legion champ in the slot when it's released, we'll get an additional 3 minutes of time inside the champ raid, which will net us more champion coins. So when the raid is over, go ahead and talk to the NPC and he will give you the amount of coins that is equivalent to the score that you earned in the raid. So yeah, when you go into your beginners tab under the champion's renown buff, you can either double click it in your skill tab or you can actually keybind it as well. You'll see all the buffs here and then how many champion coins you earned at the bottom. And keep in mind, these champion coins expire at the end of every month. So if you have any leftover coins, they will disappear. So make sure you use them every month. And if your Legion champions get stronger throughout the month, you can also go back into the champion raid and attempt it again. And if you get a higher score, it'll actually give you the coins for the higher score. So there's actually no limit on the amount of times you can do the champion raid, but it'll just give you the difference on the amount of coins that you get according to whatever your highest score is. So if my personal record for the month is 19,000 coins and I go back in and get 20,000 coins, I'll get an extra 1,000 coins because I got 1,000 more score. Now, in terms of what stats you should choose when you're using this custom buff, I would prioritize using the bossing stats over the EXP ones. So things like attack and magic attack and boss damage and crit damage and even some IED if you want. Those stats will end up being very meaningful in boss fights, and this will increase your FD by a lot. You can max out all the bossing stats and use the buff that way, but it will be very expensive in terms of the amount of coins it will use up, because the higher level one stat is, it is substantially more coins. So if you don't have that many coins or you want to use the buff many times throughout the month, I would recommend using more of like a budget buff if it's not a giga min clear on the boss you're attempting. And a budget buff would look something like this: 15 attack and magic attack, 8% boss, 2% crit damage, and 2% IED. A buff like this is much more coin efficient, but you can mess around with the buff and see what costs what. And since the buff is fully customizable, you can kind of custom tailor the buff for the boss that you're trying to defeat at the specific time. And in terms of the EXP, I think the EXP buff is actually okay value up until the 20% mark on the EXP buff. I would pretty much never use the 25% on the EXP though, because it's just way too expensive. I would only use it if you have coins expiring and you have to use the coins before they expire. But yeah, I would definitely focus on the bossing buffs over the EXP one. And keep in mind, these are the only coins that you'll get for the entire month unless you hit a higher score. So I would definitely try to budget the buffs that you get for the month and not try to blow them all in the first week or anything like that. If you're not really min clearing anything and you're clearing all the bosses pretty comfortably right now though, you can just use the EXP to train if you're hard pushing levels or something like that. And because it's Night Troop right now as of the recording of this video, I think that EXP has more value right now because all of the EXP multipliers and stacking that we're on right now. So yeah, it's kind of really up to personal preference and very dependent on your personal situation on what buffs to get and to choose between either the EXP or the bossing buffs. But yeah, I hope you guys got some insight on what buffs to use and how the champion raid system works. And if you're interested in the core Legion champion system itself, I will leave that video in the description if you want to watch it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe for more MapleStory videos, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.